I want you to picture a scenario. It's honestly a classic one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You're sitting at the dinner table. Maybe you've had a glass of wine or two.
Right.
And you've been secretly, or, well, maybe not so secretly, scrolling through Zillow for months. And you finally look at your partner and say, okay, let's do it. Let's sell the house.
The big decision.
Exactly, the big decision. And then the scramble just immediately begins.
The absolute chaos.
Yes. You start tossing junk in boxes. You frantically paint that guest room you've hated for 5 years. You stick a for sale sign in the yard. And then and only then do you pick up the phone to call a real estate agent.
Which sounds exactly like the standard operating procedure for most people. I mean, that is exactly how 90% of people think the process actually works.
Right.
Decision first, action second, professional help third.
Because it feels logical, you know?
Yeah.
You get your ducks in a row, and then you bring in the pro to sell the ducks.
Sure.
But, and here is where things get really messy for us today. We have a source that says that specific order of operations. It's arguably the most expensive mistake a homeowner can make.
It's a really bold claim.
It is. So today, we are doing a deep dive into a comprehensive guide called The Architecture of Early Real Estate Planning. And let me tell you, the core thesis here is going to disrupt a lot of assumptions.
It definitely challenged mine.
Yeah. It basically argues that by the time you put the sign in the yard, if that is your first real contact with an expert, you have already missed the most critical window for strategy.
You've entirely skipped the most valuable part of the timeline.
Exactly. So our mission today is to uncover exactly why the most strategic time to talk to a real estate agent is long before the house hits the market.
Even if you aren't sure you actually want to sell yet.
Which I have to admit sounds completely counterintuitive.
It does sound backward.
Yeah.
But what's compelling about this source is that it reframes the entire concept of selling. It moves us away from thinking of selling a home as a task.
Like buying groceries or getting an oil change.
Right, like a chore on a list. It moves us toward viewing it as a strategic asset management timeline. This is for anyone who wants to move from just reacting to the market, which is always a high-stress, low-control environment, to actually leading their own process.
Let's start with that first big concept. The source draws a really hard line between the transaction and the timeline.
This is completely foundational to the whole guide. Most people view real estate as a transaction. They think it's a single event.
You list, you negotiate, you sign papers, boom, done.
Exactly. Boom, done. But this text argues that selling a home is actually a complex sequence of decisions that unfold over 6 to 12 months.
A sequence, meaning it's not just one big red button you push.
No, not at all. And when you treat it as a single event, when you wait until you're ready to move to make that call, you are compressing all those micro decisions into a tiny, incredibly high-pressure window.
And the text explicitly says that when these decisions are rushed, homeowners react instead of led.
Yes, they just react.
Okay, so reacting sounds bad. But let's be specific for the listener. What is the actual cost of reacting? Are we just talking about stress and gray hairs, or are we talking real money here?
We are talking significant capital, tens of thousands of dollars. The source breaks this down into something it calls the convenience tax.
The convenience tax. I actually haven't heard that specific term in real estate before.
It's a great term. Think about it. If you decide to sell and you want to list in 2 weeks, but you suddenly realize you need the deck stained and the carpets replaced.
You are totally at the mercy of whoever is available right now.
Exactly. You can't shop around for quotes. You can't wait for that reliable, affordable contractor who happens to be booked out for 3 weeks.
Because you need it done yesterday.
Right. So you pay a premium for speed. The source estimates that this convenience tax on repairs and prep work can run 20 to 30% higher than standard rates.
Wow, 20 to 30%. That's true, though. Rush jobs are always more expensive.
Always. But there's another cost they mention, which is the staleness factor.
The staleness factor? That sounds even worse, like old bread or something.
It's a very similar concept. If you rush to list, you might put the house on the market before it's truly ready. Maybe the photos are mediocre because it was raining that day and you couldn't wait for the sun.
Or the staging is just cluttered because you didn't have time to rent a storage unit.
Exactly. And the data in the source shows that if a house sits on the market for more than 30 days, because it wasn't launched perfectly, the final sale price drops statistically.
It's literally death by 1,000 cuts.
It is.
You lose money on the rush contractor, you lose money on the final price drop, all because you didn't have a timeline.
And we haven't even touched on the psychological toll. The source mentions decision fatigue.
Oh, sure.
When you are trying to figure out your home's current market value, identify improvements, and time your financial goals all in a 2-week span, you make bad calls. You end up accepting lower offers just to be done with the headache.
So if we step back, the source is suggesting we replace this frantic 2-week sprint with what they call a roadmap.
Yes, the roadmap is the antidote to the sprint. When an agent is brought in early, say, 6 months to a year before you even think you might move, the goal isn't to list the home.
What is it then?
It is to audit the asset, to create a long-term plan.
But hold on, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
How fair?
If I call a real estate agent 6 months before I'm ready to sell, aren't I just inviting a sales pitch into my living room? I feel like I'd just be dodging just listed flyers every week after that.
That is the most common fear. We tend to think of all agents as just salespeople. But the source makes a very clear distinction between a transactional agent and a strategic consultant.
Okay, what's the difference?
A good agent, a strategic consultant, knows that a well-planned listing sells faster and for more money. They actually don't want to list your house today if it's going to sit there and get stale.
They'd rather wait.
They want to list it in 6 months when it's absolutely perfect.
So they're basically investing in the future product.
Precisely. And this leads to one of the most practical parts of building this roadmap, the return on usage matrix.
I really liked this part because usually we just assume any renovation adds value. You fix something, the house is worth more, but the source says that is a lie.
It's a very dangerous oversimplification. The return on usage matrix divides improvements into distinct categories. You have things that offer high return on investment, and then you have things that offer invaluable value.
Give me an example of invisible value.
A brand new water heater, or high-efficiency insulation in the attic. You might spend $4,000 on that right before you sell.
But does the buyer actually care?
Well, think about it. If you were buying a house, would you pay an extra $4,000 because the water heater is new?
I mean, I'd care if the water was freezing cold during my shower, but I'm probably not paying a premium on the house price just for the tank itself.
Exactly. The source calls this invisible CapEx, capital expenditure. Buyers expect hot water. They don't pay a premium for it. So if you replace a working water heater right before selling, you are essentially burning cash.
That makes total sense.
But if you talk to an agent a year in advance, they might audit the house and say, hey, your water heater's old. If it breaks while you live here, fix it.
But don't upgrade it just for the sale.
Right. They'll tell you to spend that money on sanding the hardwood floors instead.
Because the floors are emotional.
The floors are highly visual. That is what the source calls perceived value. Knowing the difference between a $10,000 bathroom remodel that only adds $5,000 to the sale price versus a $500 paint job that adds $5,000 to the price.
That's the difference between having an agent and just taking a guess.
Exactly. It's strategy over assumption.
I guess that's the danger of watching too much HGTV, right? We watch these flipped houses and think we need to knock down load-bearing walls just to get someone to buy our house.
And an early agent can tell you, actually, in this specific neighborhood, buyers prefer closed floor plans because everyone works from home now and they want quiet offices.
Which brings us to the other big part of the roadmap, market intelligence.
Yes, constantly shifting variables.
The source talks about tracking micro trends. How is that different from just watching the evening news? I mean, I know if national interest rates are up or down.
Because the news gives you national averages. Micro trends are hyperlocal. They happen block by block. For example, is there a new elementary school opening next fall 2 streets over?
Oh, I see. That would change the demand for family homes in that specific neighborhood instantly.
Instantly. Or maybe a large employer 3 towns over just announced massive layoffs.
Which means a flood of inventory is probably about to hit your local market in a few months.
Exactly. If you're just watching national financial news, you won't see that coming. But an agent who works that beat every single day knows. They can look at your roadmap and tell you, if we list in March, we beat the glut of houses. If we wait until May, we're drowning in competition.
That creates a massive advantage for you. You are timing your move based on hard data, not just based on when you finally finished painting the guest room.
It creates clarity. The source has a great quote about this. It says, without clarity, homeowners operate on assumptions. With clarity, they operate on strategy.
I love that quote. Operating on strategy. Okay, let's pivot to something that feels a bit more aggressive in the text. The source spends a lot of time talking about leverage.
Leverage is absolutely everything in negotiation.
But usually when we hear the word leverage, we think about corporate takeovers or lawyers in a courtroom. How does calling a real estate agent early give me leverage?
The source uses a great analogy here. Think about buying a car.
Right.
Who gets the worst deal?
Okay.
The guy who strolls onto the dealership lot on a Saturday afternoon just to look around? Or the guy whose transmission just blew up on the highway and he desperately needs a car to get to work on Monday morning?
Obviously, the guy with the blown transmission. He has to buy something today.
Right. He has zero leverage because he has zero time. The dealer can literally smell the urgency.
And the source argues that the exact same physics apply to selling a home.
They do. If a buyer knows you absolutely need to move, maybe you've already bought another place and you're carrying 2 mortgages, or you're relocating for a job next month, they will crush you on the price.
Because they know you can't walk away from the table. You don't have the time to wait for a better offer.
But if you've planned this out for a year, you have options. You aren't under pressure. You can easily say no.
And the source points out something really fascinating about buyer psychology here. It claims that buyers can actually sense a rushed listing.
Oh, they definitely can.
Is that real, or is that just agent talk to get you to hire them?
It's very real. It's in the subtle details. If the photos look hurried, if the disclosure documents are incomplete, if the repairs look like sloppy patch jobs, buyers instantly assume the seller is disorganized or desperate.
And desperate sellers attract lowball offers.
Every single time. It's blood in the water. But on the flip side, the source talks about the power of the curated listing.
The curated listing.
Yeah. When a home hits the market and everything is just crisp, the staging is right, the pricing is highly strategic, the marketing copy is specific to the micro trends, it signals confidence, it signals professionalism.
It signals to the buyer, I know exactly what I have and I know exactly what it's worth.
Exactly. And that confidence actually intimidates the bargain hunters. They realize you have the luxury of time, so they don't even try the petty negotiation tactics. By preparing early, you're essentially putting on a suit of armor before you walk onto the battlefield.
You're playing offense instead of defense.
You become the CEO of your own transaction.
Yeah.
You make the decisions strategically rather than emotionally.
Now, this brings us to the section of the source material that I honestly found the most surprising. And I think it's the part that really justifies this entire deep dive.
You talk about Section 4.
Yeah, Section 4. The source suggests that sometimes you call the agent, you build the roadmap, you look at all the market intelligence and strategy, and the professional advice is simply do not sell this house.
Yes. This is what the source calls the option to do nothing, or the hold calculation.
Which, again, feels super weird. Why would an agent who gets paid entirely on commission tell me to hold on to my house and not sell it?
Because a true strategic consultant looks at your long-term wealth, not just their quick commission check.
They want you as a client for life.
Exactly. And the source breaks down the math on this really well. Let's say you bought your home 5 years ago. You likely have a mortgage rate that is historically low, maybe 3 or 4%.
Right, which is a massive financial asset in itself these days.
It's huge. The source suggests having the agent run a rent versus sell audit for you. If you can rent that house out and the rent easily covers the mortgage, plus a 20% buffer for maintenance and vacancies, you have a cash flowing asset.
So if I sell it just because I want to move, I lose that 3% rate forever and I lose the future passive income?
The source literally calls selling in that specific scenario wealth destruction.
Wealth destruction. That is a heavy phrase.
It is. You might get a lump sum of cash right now from the equity, but you are killing a golden goose. An agent who is brought in early can run all those numbers for you without the pressure and a looming deadline. They might look at your roadmap and say, look, you can sell for a $50,000 profit right now, but if you hold this property for 10 years as a rental, you'll make $200,000.
But that requires an agent who understands investment and asset management, not just someone who knows how to host an open house.
Correct. And that is exactly why you interview them early. You bring them in and you ask, help me understand all my options.
The source heavily emphasizes this mantra. The goal of an early conversation is not commitment. It is clarity.
Clarity over commitment.
I think that's the bumper sticker for this whole discussion.
It really is. It gives you the breathing room to explore all the what ifs. What if we wait 2 years to sell? What if we turn this into a long-term rental? What if we do a cash-out refinance to buy the next house but keep this one?
And this applies even if you aren't in your forever home yet, right? I think a lot of people feel like they need to be wealthy or have a massive real estate portfolio to have these asset management conversations.
Not at all. The text is very clear on this. In fact, it's even more important for your first or second home. That equity is likely the biggest chunk of your entire net worth.
That's a great point.
The source compares it to a 401k. Think about it. You wouldn't drain your 401k without talking to a financial advisor first, right?
No way. That would be crazy.
Yet people liquidate their real estate equity, which is often much larger than their 401k, without ever running the numbers on the hold calculation. They just sell because they decided it's time to move.
It's a huge blind spot for most of us. We treat the house strictly as a place to live, not as a bank account or a financial instrument.
And creating that separation helps you make infinitely better decisions. When you start viewing the home as an asset, you stop being so emotional about sticking a for sale sign in the yard. You start asking the right questions, like, does this move the needle on my long-term financial freedom?
It's about acting like an investor in your own life.
It is. The source sums this up with a really powerful sentiment. It says, the homeowners who achieve the best outcomes are not the ones who act the fastest. They're the ones who prepare the earliest.
It totally flips the script on the hustle culture of real estate. We constantly hear, hot market, act now, don't wait.
But speed without direction is just chaos.
Right.
The source is basically arguing that you need to slow down to speed up.
Right.
If you take 6 months to plan and build your roadmap, when you finally do hit the market, you move incredibly fast because the path is already cleared.
So let's bring this all together for everyone listening. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the convenience tax of rushing contractors, to the psychology of the curated listing, to the wealth destruction of selling a 3% mortgage.
The main takeaway from all of this is really a behavioral shift. You have to stop waiting for the final decision to sell before you seek professional advice. The advice is the actual tool that helps you make the decision in the first place.
Right. It's like you don't go to the doctor only after you've completely diagnosed yourself and written your own prescription. You go to get the diagnosis.
Exactly. Bring the expert in when you have questions, not just when you have a deadline. Doing this shifts the entire power dynamic back to you. You aren't at the mercy of the market waves anymore. You are captaining the ship.
And you avoid leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table just because you rushed to install a new water heater that nobody cares about, or you panicked and sold an asset you should have rented out.
Or you lifted your house during a week when the local factory announced layoffs. It all comes down to having the right information at the right time.
It really does. So here is a final provocative thought for you to mull over as you go about your day. We've talked a lot about strategy and leverage and timelines, but ask yourself this. If you called a real estate strategist today, not to list your home, but just to audit it as an asset, and they told you the most profitable move was actually to wait 3 years, what opportunities are you currently missing simply because you're assuming the only reason to ever call an agent is to sign a contract?
That is a great question to leave on. Perhaps the most valuable conversation you can ever have about your home is the one that has no immediate transaction attached to it at all.
Such a powerful shift in perspective. That is it for today's deep dive. Go make a plan, not just a transaction. Thanks for listening.